All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're mapping out the ultimate spiritual anatomy detailed in our source text, Layers of the Crystic Conscience. But honestly, instead of getting bogged down in floating, abstract concepts, I want you to visualize our inner world through a much more relatable lens. Picture the vibrant, grounded life of a totally normal 20-something. Imagine a serene atmosphere, incredibly detailed, colorful backgrounds, where a completely typical 25-year-old, just navigating a regular day in regular clothes, is actually functioning as a walking, breathing conduit for divine energy. That's what we're really talking about here. To keep this complex spiritual architecture super clear, we'll follow a really logical 5-part journey inward. First, defining the higher mediator. Second, transforming the lower bodies. Third, activation in divine grace. Fourth, the alchemy of the soul. And finally, achieving sovereign mastery. Okay, part 1, defining the higher mediator, or the bridge to the soul. So, the higher self absolutely isn't some distant deity sitting on a cloud somewhere. It's actually a nested layer of your very own identity. The source defines the Crystic Conscience as the perfect blueprint of the individual, serving as an active bridge, a divine mediator between infinite spirit and your embodied soul. Think of it like a massive electronic transformer. Infinite spirit is this incredibly high-frequency light, right? If that hit our physical bodies directly, it would just completely short-circuit us. It's too much. So the Crystic Conscience steps down that massive divine light into a serene, manageable energy. An energy that a modern young adult can actually process while, just riding the subway or hanging out in a brightly colored coffee shop. It holds your solar blueprint, the memory of your soul's original perfection, and it just constantly radiates that frequency of wholeness from the inside out. Now, the text drops this incredible line. It calls the Crystic Conscience this specific layer that processes God's grace as kinetic energy. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. Grace isn't just some warm, fuzzy, passive feeling you get during meditation. According to the spiritual framework, it's a dynamic, physical force driving you forward. It's the vitality that literally gets you out of bed in the morning, the directed power that helps you actually manifest your life purpose. It is quite literally kinetic energy. Moving right along to part 2, transforming the lower bodies, basically the architecture of healing. Let's look at how this higher frequency actually changes our everyday human form. The source text divides our lower self into 4 distinct bodies, and the higher self hits each one in a very specific way. Think of this as your healing blueprint. First up, the mental body. Here we get the illumination of truth. The higher self pierces right through all that mental fog and density, swapping out rigid belief systems for what they call direct knowing. Second is the emotional body, which receives a frequency of peace. It's like it installs a witness layer, so you can observe your raw emotional reactions without instantly being swept away by them. Third, we have the memory body, where we see the dissolving of knots. Since the higher self exists totally outside of linear time, it can actually project light backward to neutralize past trauma and old karmic seeds. And finally, the physical body experiences the quickening of the flesh. Your actual biological cells start vibrating at higher frequencies, which leads to better endurance and literal cellular healing. How amazing is that? The crucial takeaway here is the massive contrast between our states of being. Honestly, so many of us spend our entire days stuck in the unhealed lower state. You know the feeling. Frantic calculating, knee-jerk emotional reactions, just running on inherited, rigid paradigms. But when you transition into the Crystic activated state, you drop that exhausting, anxiety-driven calculation. You move into a grounded, serene state of intuitive listening. Instead of just reacting to whatever life throws at you, you're operating from spirit-activated virtues and direct divine knowing. Really, it's the profound difference between just surviving your day and truly mastering it. All right, part 3, activation and divine grace, the spark of the Holy Spirit. So you might be wondering, how does this system actually boot up in our day-to-day lives? The mechanics of this activation process are honestly fascinating. The text explains that the Holy Spirit acts like a searchlight. But, and this is key, it's not searching for your flaws to condemn you. It's searching for sanctification. It's finding the trauma stored deep in your nervous system so it can finally release it. As that happens, this divine energy just soaks your lower bodies, completely washing away lower frequencies like envy or stress. Divine grace kicks in as a super tangible corrective force, smoothing out all those chaotic emotional ripples. And here's the really beautiful part. The framework points out that this activated state will actually orchestrate fated connections and soulmates to help heal our loneliness. It literally aligns our human auras with the clean, clear, divine geometry of angels.
The text also gives us some super interesting, tangible signs that this activation is happening. When your Crystic Conscience takes the wheel, you'll likely get these undeniable gut feelings alerting you to who is supportive and who brings malevolent energy. You might even start getting mystic warning signals or affirmations, like, say, repeatedly seeing the number 808 everywhere you look. According to the text, your spirit guides actually coordinate these numerical sequences to act as a mental anchor. It's just a little nod from the universe, confirming that your soul is exactly where it needs to be.
Which brings us to part 4, the alchemy of the soul, balancing the threefold flame.
Once you're activated, your soul enters this incredibly deliberate phase of expansion. Your Crystic Conscience basically becomes a spiritual laboratory. And here are the 3 steps of that internal alchemy. Step 1 is divine love, represented by the pink ray. This takes everyday love and transforms it from a basic social reaction into a totally unconditional virtue, projecting real compassion to heal your emotional sheath. Step 2 is divine wisdom, the yellow ray. This illuminates your mental mirror, clearing out all the junk and static to reveal your actual life purpose or your dharma. And step 3 is divine power, the blue ray. This provides that kinetic energy we were talking about earlier, empowering your physical form to actually overcome the obstacles in your way. This step-by-step alchemy shows exactly how raw, messy life experiences get refined into gold. It's what empowers that normal 20-something to walk down a bustling, vibrant city street, fully engaged with the real world, yet bathed in a completely protective light of presence.
And finally, part 5, achieving sovereign mastery, the integrated soul.
In the final, fully synthesized state of our spiritual anatomy, the physical body actually becomes the temple of the Holy Spirit, radiating virtuous divine feelings outward into the world. At this advanced stage, your soul realizes it's not just a human having a brief spiritual experience. You are the higher self, successfully and sovereignly navigating the material world. Ultimately, this entire framework outlines how we can stop reacting like victims to the world's chaos. Instead, we become a vibrant, completely grounded sanctuary, projecting joy, peace, and patience outward, and actively transforming the environment around us. As we wrap up this explainer on the Crystic Conscience, I really want to leave you with this one question to chew on. How will you recognize your own solar blueprint as you navigate the material world today? Seriously, look for those quiet moments of sudden insight. Watch for those unexpected surges of kinetic energy, or hey, maybe even an 808 on your coffee receipt. Notice the moments when you successfully step out of frantic calculation and drop right into serene, intuitive listening. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into our spiritual architecture. Until next time, keep exploring and keep learning.